Hey everybody, welcome to CAF update number 10. It's been a bit of a busy day and I'm kind of winging this thing last minute, but wanted to go over a few things that are going on with CAF today. And the big thing we have consistently working on is that not work safe moderator. And I'm having a few audio problems here, it would seem. Anyone else hearing that? Anyone else hearing that? Maybe not. All right, so let's go ahead and get this thing going then. So essentially, one of the things I want to talk about was just the not work safe stuff. It's been a bit of a challenge and trying to get everybody on the same page. We're getting there slowly. The one of the things that happened this past week, and so I thought it was worth talking about, is one of the terms and conditions for CAF has always been that we tend to not want to get involved when things go wrong on the site, whether it's a transaction or it's a disagreement between buyers and sellers, that kind of thing. We just try to stay out of the way of those things. And the thing is, I'll be honest, when I hear something and I know that it's something that I can influence or maybe help, I will always try to step in and make a difference for somebody. And so it happens a lot where if a deal goes wrong, I will help out. Like there was that one incident, it was about a year ago, when a seller on CAF sold an item. I think he was out of the country. He was in Canada or something, sold a piece of artwork to someone in the US. Did it via PayPal. The artwork gets shipped to them. And as soon as the artwork arrives, the person cancels their payment and gets their money back. Sellers all freaked out, can't figure out what's going on. Buyer isn't responding. And a few days later, there's a notice that the artwork is being shipped back to the seller. They're like, okay, cool, whatever. I don't know why this guy flaked out. And gets the package back, opens it up, and it's a print of the art that they had sent. And total screw job. And so of course, when the guy contacts me, I'm like, I really can't help you, but behind the scenes, I'm freaking out. I'm like, this is a representation of what CAF is all about, and we can't have things like that going on. So I go through and I do my due diligence. I look into who this person was that they were having, that they sold this to. I pull up their IP address and I know where they live. I basically can track them down to their address. And while not telling the person who was wronged in all this, I actually emailed the buyer and I said, kind of on the cuff or off the cuff, a little bit sly, I just said, I've been approached to turn over all your information, and this is what I have. And if you don't return the artwork, post haste, all of your information is going to be turned over to this gentleman, and I can't guarantee that you won't, be have the cops knocking on your door sometime soon. And sure enough, a week or so later, the artwork was returned and all was well. So it just goes to show you that, at the end of the day, I can't go out and tell people that I'll step in on certain situations, but I tend to do so when I feel like, there's something that I can potentially influence and help out with a situation. Because another situation came up about a week and a half ago where a guy emails me out of the blue, says, how can you take advertising dollars from a guy who, did XYZ to me? And my response, of course, is I don't know this guy, and he's not telling me who was maybe wronged him. I just let him know that, well, there's, I don't really step into deals, and it sounds like, this isn't one that I can help you out with. And they very much wanted me to do something bad, like maybe, because apparently this person is an advertiser, like I was supposed to kick their ads out, or something like that. And I just said, I can't be the judge and jury for whatever your problem is. At the end of the day, this is something that you need to resolve between you and the seller. And and I'm not going to sit there and listen to his story and your story and then try to figure out who's right and who's wrong, because at the end of the day, you're both probably wrong. And that's usually what, deals go wrong all the time. And so that was a situation where I just kind of stepped back and just said, I can't help you. And he wasn't being forthcoming on who that other person was. One of his emails literally said, if you know who this is, then you're at fault. And I said, well, I don't know who it is. You haven't even intimated who this might possibly be. All I know is it's one of potentially 50 advertisers that might be on the site. So that just, but I can tell you that, so we step in on certain situations, but I've had a few bad incidents with people that, where deals go wrong, and I do the same thing. I don't tell them I'm stepping in, and I try to resolve it, and it still doesn't work out. But I feel like I can't tell the person who's had the issue just, that I'm doing it, because at the end of the day, then I'm kind of culpable in trying to resolve a problem that really isn't, that I'm not a party to in the first place. So, again, these things do happen a lot, and well, not a lot. They happen very infrequently. They happen like 2 or 3 times a year at best. But at the end of the day, we do step in, and we try to keep everything as PC as possible on the site. Another issue just happened this past week where a collector wrote in his description all these disparaging things about somebody that had nothing to do with the artwork in question. And I emailed him, and I'm like, you got to remove that. If you want to like talk trash about somebody because of something you think that they did or didn't do or whatever, take it someplace else. Go to the CGC forums, or take it to Facebook. Put it on your Facebook page so your family can see whatever the potty mouth that you've got, and let them applaud you or high five you because you're doing a great job throwing somebody under the bus with no real thing, information to back it up. I mean, that's not what CAF is about. And they gave me a little bit of grief, but at the end of the day, they said fine, and they removed it. So those are the kinds of things that we like to try to avoid, and and those things don't happen that often either. But at the end of the day, that's not what CAF is for. I've never been. We have that forum on CAF, but I used to tell people, well, use that if you want to air your disagreements with other people. But at the end of the day, those kinds of things are just better off handled elsewhere, especially when they don't have anything to do with the art in question. Leaving negative comments on people's artwork. I mean, that's not what CAF is about. We're all, we're trying to celebrate the hobby, right? And so at any rate, that's my little diatribe, because it's been bothering me the last couple of days, and I've been wanting to get that off my chest. So today I'm wearing a CFA APA shirt. I used to write for them as well. George Hagenauer was one of, it's also had written for that. He was on our Comic Art Live chat a few weeks back. I believe Benno printed this up. This is probably like 10 years ago, Benno Rothschild. And I've worn this proudly ever since. I wish I had more time to write for those guys because it was a lot of fun. CFA APA is kind of like the hidden gem that nobody knows about. There's like 60 guys that are part of the group at any given time. And what they do is like 3 times a year, they're required to write an article about a specific topic. And what they have to do literally is actually, say it's a 5-page article that they're going to write. They have to print out 60 5-page copies, send them to whomever the guy who's pulling it all together, and they bind that thing together, 60 copies of it, and then mail it out to everybody who contributed to it. And you see them pop up on eBay every now and again. It's a really cool group of guys, and I wish I had more time to be a part of them. But the thing is, they're like tomes. I mean, I don't know what they're on right now, but when I was writing with them, they were already on like issue 60 or something like that. So these things are like filled with information from guys who know 1,000 times more than I do, and have been around the, in the hobby for a long time. And if you can ever get your hands on a few of those issues, they're really well worth the read, just because it's insightful. Because a lot of times it'll be like that person's personal experience with the creator that we might be writing about, or the theme we might be writing about. And they're great. I save mine. And they don't come up often enough, but when they do, they actually go for a lot of money. And it's just funny. I've always felt like I should go approach those guys and say, hey, anybody that's ever written for that, can we ever like get your stuff online? Like to just put those articles on CAF, because it was such a wealth and treasure trove of really good information that is unfortunately limited, because although they say if there's 60 people and there's 60 copies, they usually would make like 70 or maybe even 80. So there might be 20 extra ones floating around, but these guys keep them. So nobody gets to see them. It's this, it's like the, I don't know, it's the tablets with all the information on it that you'll never get to, the Rosetta Stones for comic art collecting and the hobby that will never be unearthed, unfortunately. And it's all on paper and printed out, so they're just going to disintegrate one day, unfortunately. So, oh, Ray is telling me that the, here, I'll pull that up. CFA APA 111 is the next one up. Ray, thank you. I wish, you know, again, I wish I could be a part of it. Maybe I'll have time one day. I don't know who's editing it these days, but I'm sure Ray's going to be on one of our Comic Art live chats in a few weeks. So it's going to, you know, I should be able to find out more about where CFA APA is right now. But so yeah, I don't want to like waste any more time because I have two guests in the green room. I want to just run rather quickly through the few updates that I've got for everyone today. The auction-wise, I wanted everybody to know that the Hakes auction, of course, is ending next week, as is Russ Cochran's auction. His ends on what is it, on the 24th on Thursday, and Hakes begins ending on Wednesday and Thursday. So those are auctions to look out for. Other major ones that are kind of coming up is the Hero Initiative Batman 100 project auction that's running on Heritage. It's live now, and it does end on Saturday. So that's something I'm sure a lot of people are already looking out for. And also, of course, don't forget, if you're in the New Jersey area, Comic Art Con is this Saturday, starts at 10 o'clock. I know that there's 6 or 8 dealers that are going to be setting up there. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of social distancing going on and all that. But I think if I were in the area, I would probably suit up, mask up, and bring some hand sanitizer, and I would show up, just because I think it's, you know, for me, I'm going to probably start hitting up a few local shows. I finally got a few flyers in the mail of shows that are in the Cleveland area where I'm at, and I'm just going to, you know, whatever that first one was, it's a Jeff Harper thing, for those in the area that know that. I'm going to go to that show just because, you know, you got to support the show and throw a few money, you know, a little bit of money to the dealers that are actually going to take the time to set up. I think it's kind of time to start getting out a little bit, as long as everybody's can do it in a safe way. So with that in mind, I did want to go and show, first off, I've got just a quick dealer update as far as sales that happened in the time period that we're kind of talking about here, which of course is September 7th through the 13th. It's for the prior week. The dealer sales basically came back. We had a really sucky week the week before. I think it was the Labor Day holiday and whatnot. But overall sales for the week were 217,000 plus for the dealers that we track. This was a piece sold by Felix. It's the Ryan Otley. It was actually a complete issue, sold for $20,000. Next up is the Avengers 178. It's a loss cover. Ramita Man sold it by Perez and Sinnott, sold for an asking price of $15,000. And nice beast image there, of course, but not the published cover. This is a Brave and Bold cover by Nick Carty, number 97, sold by Panel Page for $10,000. And let's see, next up, of course, a Mike Mignola piece sold for $9,000, Hellboy steel cover. This was sold by Albert Moy. Albert's been doing a lot more updating lately now that he is a full-time art dealer and retired from his other business. And this was also sold by Ramita Man. It is a Tony Daniel Dark Knight 3 Master Race #1 cover. Batman not quite on a gargoyle with a sniper rifle. I'm not sure, I didn't read that book, but this is also sold by Panel Page, John Romita Jr., DPS from Amazing Spider-Man number 546. He pretty much got all of the important figures in Spidey's life right there. But I'm going to kind of move right along. We already rehashed the whole Heritage auction, signature auction on our last Comic Art Live, so we don't need to talk about that. 4.4 million in sales. 1.2 from that one Frazetta piece, but still it was a really huge success for the Heritage. I think that the approach they did, where they limited the number of pieces, was key to squeezing more money out on each individual pieces. I think that was pretty cool, and I think that I would like to see. I bet other auction houses will start following that kind of model rather than throwing an extra 100 or 200 pieces in there. It doesn't equate to more money. There's only so much money that's going to get spent, so fewer and higher quality is a good way to go. So with that in mind, the few pieces that I did choose to pick out, of course, here's another This is a Mike Mignola, but again, the total comic art auctions from Heritage and eBay was $289. This Mignola piece was part of his charitable, approach. He's probably reached $300,000 so far to World Central Kitchen in his endeavor to help fund that charity. This was believe it or not, 21 dailies from BC from Johnny Hart from 59 and 58, and the series started in 58. So I think that the sale price of just around $400 a piece was pretty good for that. And this is also a Dick Tracy 1933 strip sold for $26.40. This is from 1933. That strip started in 1931, so it's an early piece. Those were all sold on eBay. This is from Heritage, a Dick Giordano Superman illustration, sold for just over $5,000. Next up is a Kevin Nolan Daredevil illustration that sold for $3,000. I kind of, I know this one. I've seen it on CAF before. I actually, I like it. I actually really like Nolan's with the way he draws faces. I don't know why. It's so stoic and not really with emotion. But this is a Silvestri Dan Green X-Men 240, page 17, sold for $19.20. That actually wasn't in the order that the pieces sold for as far as dollar amounts, but I just kind of mixed them around a little bit, thinking, as far as just trying to pick out special pieces. So as far as the popular art goes, now one of the pieces is going to be from our guest James, who's going to be coming on in a little bit. So I'm not going to show his Mcfarlane piece during this. I kind of pulled it out. That would have probably been the first piece in the list. We're just going to go over these. It's a bit limited, but here we go. This is, of course, a John Romita Amazing Spider-Man 45 page in the collection of Glenn Brunswick. I thought this was a phenomenal example. I think it's probably one of the best panel pages that I've seen. I think it rivals stuff that Berkey's got. Next up is a Bill Sienkiewicz, a Dune Marvel Super Special number 36 cover in the collection of Amir Ale. I'm probably butchering his name, but I love that piece. Here's a Doctor Strange #1 cover from Gerardo Zaffino in the collection of Kent Mansley. And next up, oddly enough, is another Dorian Vallejo painting, which we haven't seen too many of Dorian's paintings before. This is a Barbarian of Mars cover in the collection of Ryan M. And of course, a John Romita Jr. Amazing Spidey 249 page in the collection of Michael Wygant. Michael's got good taste. He posted a lot of nice stuff last week. Here is a Sergio Aragonés Grew Hell on Earth #2 cover. I mean, nobody does good humor like Sergio does. This was in Andy Worth's collection. Next up is this Jim Aparo Brave and Bold page in the collection of Chris K. This is issue 149, and of course it's the title page as well. And this is Michael Wygant again. This is a really good story. If you follow the links that we put in here to the to kind of get the summary and the links for all this, Michael had a really great story behind this particular piece, which I really liked, and you should give that a check. I think that Michael would be a good guest to have on here sometime as well. This is also from the collection of Michael 1 Minute Later. It's a Murphy Anderson's Secret Origins page. And of course, Ryan Stegman, Groot #1 cover. And this is in David Sun's gallery. I think it's a really great example of Ryan's work. I liked it when I saw it immediately. And last but not least, from the collection of Joshua Tan, a incredible piece by Frank Cho. It's the Hulk 21 and the Incredible Hulk 608 cover. I mean, nobody does crosshatch like Frank, right? And if you could own something by him, I mean, that is like a perfect example, and you get two covers out of it at the same time. Joshua has an incredible collection, and you should definitely spend some time thumbing through it because you won't be disappointed. So now, like I said, waiting in the green room has been James and Khalil, and I want to bring them both in, and we're going to start off talking with James because James had a piece that should have been in that last video, but couldn't be in it because we're going to talk with him live. All right, James. Hey, James, how you doing?
Doing well, Bill. How are you? Hey, Khalil.
All right.
Hey, what's up? Hey, Bill. See you all right?
I think Josh Tan's watching this right now, and you probably gave him a big one with that piece.
Yeah, I'm sure he is, man. piece was, you're right, Bill. That piece is awesome. It's got all the Cho tenets on display. So
I guess we're unmuted now, so all of our words of wisdom didn't come through.
All right. Now, no, well, you're not. Well, okay, that's true. Nothing could be heard. Now, I can tell everybody now, somebody is having their microphone kind of kick back on them. I'm not sure.
All right, I'm talking now. How's the audio?
I'm talking now too, right? Y'all hear me? All right. Yep. All right. Hey, T Shin said, looking sharp, Khalil. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that, T. It's my Hulk bud.
Uh-oh, Bill. You look worried. Are we good?
Uh-oh.
We are now
He's muted. He's muted. James, I can hear you.
All right. No, my question is anyone else getting the echo that I'm hearing?
No, I am not.
Is anybody in the audience having any problems? Okay, then that's positive.
That's
all right. Well, James. Yeah. All right. So why don't we get started with James then?
What's up?
All right, James. You know, when I was pulling this report together, one of the cool things that, I saw was, it seemed you had a piece that came into your possession that you were really excited about. And it seemed like, you were talking about, there was some buyer's remorse where you'd sold some pieces prior in your collection. And then all of a sudden, you had the chance to kind of fix those challenges.
Sure. Well, I guess I can talk about the story. And I mean, you're more welcome to pull up the page. But so, I've been collecting now seriously for maybe about 3.5 years. And I would say about 2.5 years ago, I had a kind of event that kind of altered the course of my collection. I went in and did a large trade with a pretty seasoned collector who kind of hooked me up. And I think in Thomas Fish's gallery, he's got a Clayton Crane connecting cover Venomverse piece, right? And that was mine. And so the collector traded me some really good art, and I'm very, very thankful for it. And within the art was a Todd McFarlane Wolverine from the Spider-Man 9 issue, right? And it was a gorgeous piece. It was one of the prides in my collection. And then a buddy of mine, wanted the piece and made me a very, very generous offer. And I was on the fence because I'm like, I can sell it, and it's a good offer. But I do fairly well for myself. But as far as means, Todd McFarlane's art is exploding, and especially from his Spider-Man run. So if I sell it, there's a good chance I will never pick up a Todd McFarlane Spider-Man piece again. So I had to resign myself to the fact that, okay, take the money because it's being waved in front of me. And just knowing that I have to look at all these McFarlane pieces in other people's galleries and resign myself to it. But I was able to pick up one recently, and it's kind of it's almost like a community effort actually getting this piece. So our community is pretty small, but pretty active. And there's a lot of ways that people interact. And one of the things that me and Khalil do is we have some Facebook Messenger chat. And I'm in a couple of them that have been going on for years. And a lot of the guys are on here. And one of the chats is called the OAOGs. It's like original gangsters. And it's a tongue-in-cheek thing because we're all newbies. We're not seasoned. We're not original. But, it was kind of funny starting it out. There's about 10 guys in there. And then there's another chat. The name changes every week based on RS88's whim. But what happened was one of the guys in the chat found this piece on a random auction to me called Nate D. Sanders Hollywood auction. So there you can buy Elvis rings and autographs and moon photos and stuff. This piece of Mcfarlane art, and he shared the link, and we were like, oh, cool. I mean, that would be kind of neat. And there was no bids, and there was no bids, and there was no bids. And the day of, there's still no bid. And I'm like, I'm just going to take a chance and register for this thing, and just to see what happens. So I register, and you have to fill out a form and give references. I'm like, oh man, this sounds shady. I'm not saying they are. Like Bill was saying, they're very well known, but they weren't known to me. Like, all right, they're asking for references and stuff, but whatever. And finally, 5 minutes before the auction closed, I just throw a bid 3 increments higher and ended up winning that Todd McFarlane piece for what I figured was a pretty freaking good deal, all said and done, compared to what some of the arts are going for right now. So that's kind of the story on there. It came through just just networking and friendships and people sharing links and sharing art that they know other people like, and that just ended up rolling the dice and winning a bid for an auction that kind of went on the radar. Yeah, there it is. Oh, I'll tell you one thing though. When I got it, it was attached to a large mat board, and I about cried when I was like, "Oh my God, some son of a bitch glued it on a mat board." I pulled it out of the sleeve, and it was flat, man. It was flat. I'm like, "Oh, I'm screwed." So I kind of bent the board. It's like, okay, it's just the corners. So I called an art restorer like that day, and he got me in the next day, and I'm just waiting for the bad news. Like, you're just gonna have to cut around it with some safety scissors or something. He goes, no, it's linen tape. I'll be right back. 3 minutes later, had it off and all the glue removed and the wooden portfolio, and had a good day, man. Had a little celebratory whiskey on that one. So,
cheers.
But that's kind of the story on that. And the nice part about it was, not only did I replace the Mcfarlane piece in my collection, which I mean, it's getting more and more difficult to do, but it had Spider-Man on it. Yeah, it's his back, but it's pretty muscular. But it also had Wolverine and Wendigo and so I mean, it kind of worked out real well.
Yeah, it did. Until James, you move it for the next thing, right?
Oh, what's that?
Until you move it for the next thing.
Right. Oh, I know. It's a never-ending hobby/addiction.
That's right. The gift and the curse. Yeah.
And it's somebody asked me on the Facebook chat. I think I got it out the door with taxes, shipping, you name it, for under $12,500.
It's good.
So,
it's good.
Yeah. So there
Cheers.
it is.
Cheers again. Yes.
Absolutely.
No, I appreciate it.
So hey, I want to stop for just a second because I'm still having a weird echo. So I may end up actually just like resetting my audio on here. But what I'd like to do is maybe you could talk about this next piece while I go ahead and try to fix my audio. So is that cool, James?
Yeah, man. I'll try to walk on my own.
All right. It won't be a minute. So you have a minute to talk about this piece.
You're fine, Bill. You're fine. So, when I was jumping on here, Bill asked me to bring 5 pieces that I wanted to share that are pretty meaningful for my collection, outside of the Spider-Man piece. So this is the cover for Chew 1. And it's meaningful for a couple of reasons. So, I grew up on, late 80s, early 90s Marvel. Most of the people my age, mostly the actually X-Men cartoon was the biggest influence in my comic nostalgia. But I kind of got away from comic books for a long time, especially in college and a little bit later. Just wasn't part of the hobby of collecting books or really reading them, outside of, watching some cartoons and stuff. And then somebody recommended the graphic series or the novel or the comic Chew to me. And it was probably about 13 issues in at the point. And so I read, the first couple trades, and I really, really enjoyed it. It had a kind of a sick sense of humor, a really funny sense of art, and a lot more emotion than I expected from a book that kind of presented itself as a silly cop drama / chicken and swine flu, cannibal cop ridiculousness. So I ended up, that was the first comic series where I actually purchased an issue every single week in about a decade. And so about issue 33, 34, 35, I actually looked up the comic artist. At that time, I mean, I read comic books, I watched the cartoon, but I really never focused on the actual artist who was drawing it. So I looked up the guy's website, and he was selling pages from this issue too. I'm like, you can buy pages of comic art? I mean, it blew my mind. Like I didn't even know this was a thing at that point. And so I picked up a couple pages, paid about $250 a page, going, I'm out of my damn mind paying this much money for, a picture of some comic book characters, right? And I just remember that first day that I got it in the mail, and I opened it up, and it was 11 by 17, which I wasn't even expecting either. And I was like, man, I can see all the detail. I can see the artist's work. I can see kind of the thought process that went into it. And it was amazing. And I was kind of hooked at that point as far as comic art being a thing. And I actually picked up a couple more pieces from him. But I eventually, became pretty good acquaintances with Rob Gilroy, who's the artist for this piece. Purchased a bunch of work from him, supported him on some of his projects, and wore him down enough over and over and over again that it allowed me to go ahead and purchase the cover for him. So again, it's kind of what got me into comic art was the book 2, and I was able to get kind of the penultimate piece for that series. So that's kind of the story associated with that one.
Pretty cool. And hey, I fixed my audio problem. I realized I'm a real dummy because I had so many tabs open. I actually had a tab open from when I loaded the one of the chats in YouTube, and it was playing like delayed behind us talking. And yeah, so I'm an idiot. Anyway, let's
it's all right.
All right. There's a first for everything. I won't do that again. But all right, so here's another one.
Yeah, I'll go through these a little bit quicker because I definitely want to get to Khalil some time. So this one, the reason I want to highlight this one, it's actually kind of behind me too, hanging on the wall. I mean, it's an artist that's probably done 2 or 3 covers, maybe total. I don't know. Most of it's digital work. A guy out of India named Mukesh Singh. And I saw the comic book, and I figured the comic book was digital. And I saw this posted on CAF by him one day. I think it's the only piece he's ever posted on CAF for sale. And I picked it up immediately. And I just loved the hyper detail and the size of it. It's massive. Just the feathering and the fact that kind of the feeling with it, like, I put it in my CAF or description, like serene omnipotence, right? We've got the Phoenix Force who can pretty much do anything. And it's like she's at peace, right? As opposed to like all of the Dark Phoenix pictures that you see. So it's just something where it's absolutely gorgeous. It's something probably we'll never get rid of just because of the artistic value to me. And the fact it's not really a known artist. So, what kind of price could it pull, right? Not enough for me to take it off the wall. So, it's just something that's going to stay up there and, for me to enjoy for a long time.
Hey, James, how big is it again? It's a big piece, right?
No, yeah, it's like 28 by, or I don't know, like 20 by 30 or something
that's
ridiculous.
big. Yeah.
Cool. It's oh yeah,
Ooh.
that one. So ironically, and I didn't plan this one, Khalil is the one responsible for me picking up this piece. This is
I have yet to see the kickback. I have yet to see the kickback. But go ahead.
Go ahead. You're showing the piece I told you today. So this is Wolverine versus Juggernaut. It's from Wolverine '93. I think it's one of Adam Kubert's top signature pieces he's ever done. Within the top 5, top 10, easy. I think it's pretty iconic. And what happened is, again, networking and building friends on, within the CAF community, on Facebook chat and everything. I was just talking to Khalil on chat. We were kind of dreaming about, what's that one piece you'd like, right? What's that one piece that you wish you could find the art for? I was like, man, when I was a kid, I had this cutout of Wolverine popping his claws in front of Juggernaut, and that would be ridiculous to own. Khalil's like, I think I know where that's at. I'm like, no shit, no heck, right? So, hit up, Jason Essential Sequential. Adam was selling the piece at the time, and it was, my first 5-figure purchase. just cross the line on that. But I think it's been worth it.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
iconic Wolverine Juggy image.
Yep. It just kind of captures their personalities. Oh, this one, Batman Who Laughs, right? So this is the cover to the one-shot origin story for the Batman Who Laughs. And I'm mostly a Marvel guy. I do have a lot of DC. I do read some DC, but my collection is mostly Marvel. And I wasn't reading the Dark Knight's Metal series at all. And somebody recommended just checking this one out, the one-shot, because of how dark it was, how bleak, and how different than what you would expect from a Batman story where Batman wins. So I read it and I really, really enjoyed it. And then I actually, they were selling the interior pages on Felix site, and unfortunately, my browser's 5 seconds, and when it needs to be 4 seconds or something like that. So I missed out on every single page on the interior. But a buddy of mine ended up picking up all the covers for all the one shots, and when he was transitioning from DC to mostly collecting Marvel, I was able to pick this one up. But I will say, from the interior pages, it's kind of a weird scenario where the interior pages were done by Riley Rothmo. I think I'm pronouncing it right. But not a single interior page has ever showed up on Cap out of all the 23 of them. I have never seen one posted online, Instagram, and it wasn't, someone didn't buy the whole book. So it's kind of a mystery.
Well, Cap is not, we have a lot of collectors on it, but I'm sure we're talking 5 to 10% of the collectors that are, out there today are on Cap. I mean, most guys are private or just don't want to, or they're sharing it on Facebook rather than Cap. I mean, but yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, James, I want to say one thing to James though too, is that, what's cool is I see all this art all the time, and half the time I'm just looking at the art. I don't really equate it to the person who owns it. So like when I saw this, I mean, I stared at it for over a minute because I just loved it, and but never knowing that you were the owner of it. So it's so cool when that's kind of why I wanted to start doing these things, so you can actually like say, man, I know this guy now. I can at least put a face to that art, and that's really cool for me because going through the site every day, I barely have the chance to kind of enjoy learning a bit about the collectors. That's why when I read your story, that's why I was like, James would be cool to have on here, because I know there's going to be something interesting behind this, and that's usually what really fuels things for me, is like just the story behind why people like to pick up things. But yes, this was an awesome piece.
Well, I'm sorry it's this face behind it, but no, I appreciate it.
and James, you mentioned it's Jason Fabok, right? There's a couple that asked about that just now.
Oh yeah, that one's Jason Fabok. And one of the things when I saw it, I thought the black on there, because it's so dark and so thick, that it might have been either black paper or scanned it. No, man, he just inked the hell out of that thing.
Yeah, that's tight. I mean, if you talk about a character, maybe in the last couple of years, right? If you kind of put on one hand how many characters that showed up in the last, couple, that, I mean, he's right there at the top, at least in the top 5. Yep. Yeah.
I just don't want him to be A, overexposed, or B, killed off in the next.
Because both happen. Both happen. Yeah.
Very true. So, Khalil, would you like to kind of take over? One of the when I was pulling things together for today's show, I kind of always go back and look at most commented things, and obviously I had featured a piece of yours last week, and it was fun to see that your Black Panther cover, the Agents of Wakanda #3, is actually in the last 30 days, like the 5th highest commented piece on Cap. So that's pretty cool.
It's cool, man. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And for the folks that know me on Cap, so I guess first I'll say David, Nick, Ryan, glad to see you guys. At some point maybe we'll get to meet face to face, but at least we kind of got that halfway thing now. So appreciate the time today, Bill. And I guess I won't throw James under the bus, because you opened up about not bringing that stuff into this venue. So I guess I'll leave that out. But yeah, I mean, so for me, as far as Cap goes, it was a big deal for me when I first registered, I think back in 2011, just to see everybody's stuff, 1, and then 2, when I first started getting into hobby, putting my stuff up and kind of seeing what people thought. So I guess it's a few things when I think of CAF and interacting with people over the years that, Kay Giron, I've heard, good descriptions, good comments. A lot of Ryan Stegman art. I have a lot of his, maybe 30 plus pieces of his, and I have a big Black Panther collection. So I have a focus there too. But yeah, man, my collecting, I guess I think it runs the gamut from being an 80s kid to an adolescent and a teenager in the 90s to being an adult 2000s and now. So I got that itch to scratch when it comes to some of that nostalgia from being a kid and being a teenager to the great looking modern stuff now. So my collection kind of runs that whole gamut, mostly Marvel, some DC that I read.
Very cool. So is it okay if I bring up those pieces that we set aside, or
let's do that.
All right, cool.
Okay, so this one is just that perfect mix of great art and nostalgia, right? So I said I was an 80s kid, and Spider-Man is my favorite character, right? Just like many others. And the black costume I tripped out on when I was young. Right when I first started reading comics was around 252 and Ron Frenz's run on ASM. And at the time, Mike Zeck does this Kraven's Last Hunt that I don't know if I even understand completely when I'm reading it. But I know I like it. I know I like what I'm reading. I know what I like what I'm looking at. And he does Secret Wars, which I love because every character is in it. And then later he does Punisher, at least for me, later he does Punisher. And I just love, he had that great kind of look, that classic John Buscema look, but he's bringing it into today a little bit more. So it's hard for me to rank artists, but he would definitely be up there, maybe top 3 for me. And so this was just that perfect kind of match because it's a sequential piece, right, which is what we read the stories for. And as you go across, just some great shots of Spidey, him just basically waking up after being buried for a couple weeks, and he's not too happy about it. So I've gotten a chance to have both Mike Zeck, the penciler, and the inker Bob McLeod sign this, and I've taken pics of them, and it's up on my wall right now. So I'm still looking for a Secret Wars page, Punisher page, and I'll post a cap splash that I've gotten recently, but he's just a favorite of mine, so I had to put that one up there for you to show today.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful page. I'm looking at it in much more detail than everybody else is online, but yeah, that's a great piece. I mean, anything from this particular storyline is classic, and unfortunately we have a lot of that on CAF. But this, yeah, you definitely lucked out with this page here. It
came from Mr. Mike Berkey, Bermudaman.com.
Yeah, no. If anybody has Spidey art, it's him.
Yeah, goes without saying.
All right, so this is yeah.
So I had to put this one up because this is one of the pieces that connects myself and James here. So James actually owned this, and James, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you might have got it in a trade or some kind of deal.
Yeah, that sort of. I got a piece in that big trade that I mentioned. I traded that piece for this piece. And
yes.
Man, I mean, I sought you out on this one because I knew
you did.
Yeah.
So when I was joking earlier about a kickback not being there, I considered this the kickback. So I was joking. So he reached out to me and said if I was interested, and I very calmly, right, said sure. When in my head I'm like, hell yeah. I mean, it's got my 2 favorite hero characters are here. Didn't have a Simone Bianchi piece yet, and this just kind of hit. Just check that box multiple ways. It's a gorgeous piece, and I know today he does a lot of that full kind of painted, colored cover work, which is great. But this, I feel like, in a way, kind of speaks to his pure illustration skill a little bit more. If you read my description on this, it's pretty thorough, like I guess a lot of mine are, but it's just a masterpiece. And I know James at times regrets letting this one go, but it's in good hands, man. My 2 favorite characters done by one of the best to draw today.
I don't regret that. Not to you.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah. And the good thing is, Simone is so prolific that there will always be something else amazing to pick up. I mean, he's he can do no wrong as far as his skill and the titles and the work that he's gotten to do. And he's like, I don't follow too many artists on Facebook, but I he's like set to always be at the top of my feed, so I never miss anything that he posts.
Bill, it's funny when you say just in terms of my collecting habits, right? I try to be as judicious and deliberate as possible with what I pick up, and this is an example of unless I find something that just wows me, I'm probably done, right? You never say never, but I'm close to being done with him as far as having an example, because I've got it. So I got kind of move on to other things. It's a big check off the box.
Yeah. Unless he does another Spidey Black Panther cover that's just head and shoulders above this one, right?
I caveated with never say never. So yes. Yes.
All right, cool.
Okay, so here's another modern example, right? So I told you I have a lot of Ryan Stegman pieces, and James and I talked about this because him and I were buying a lot of Ryan Stegman pieces when he was with Cadence Comic Art. And I just saw, big Spider-Man fan, right? Reading Spider-Man comics at the time. I just saw that this guy, in terms of the energy, in terms of the look of the musculature mixed with some realistic kind of proportions, just kind of hit it for me when it came to Spidey and the Spider world, right? So Scarlet Spider I've been following him and picking up a lot of his stuff. And this splash, I actually have framed with the cover and the published page on my wall right now. This is the introduction of the Superior Spider-Man, which is Doc Ock, who's taken over as Spider-Man for I think a couple years he did. So this is that big intro, and when I think Ryan, this is what I think, and I'm so happy for him that he's been able to kind of blow up in recent years on his Venom run with Donny Cates. But I'll say this, right? I'm definitely picking up less of his stuff because one, he's blown up, and two, to James's point, I don't know if I have a connection speed fast enough with some of the stuff that's posted by Felix for his Venom run. So I'm one, happy with what I have. Two, it's more difficult to pick up new stuff. But just an example of a young artist that was just getting going that I thought was great, and I'm glad he's gotten a bigger profile in recent years.
A cool story. I haven't been to too many Comic Cons because I live in Oklahoma, right? It's not like one of the coasts. And in order to go to the Comic Cons, you typically have to travel quite a ways. But there's one in Dallas, and Khalil actually, we were chatting online, and he used to be from Dallas. He's like, let's meet up at the Dallas Comic Con. So I drove down from Oklahoma City. Khalil, flew over from him. We actually, my wife came, his wife came, and we kind of hung out. But the next night at the Comic Con, Khalil actually arranged for us to hang out with Ryan Stegman and Donny Cates for a long time. Go to their Venom kind of showcase, and go to the hotel and the lobby, and it was just a fun night, man. Just to kind of get to know, those guys, behind the scenes, well, they're both pretty open, right? So definitely what you get is what you see, and that's a good thing.
That's right. That was a great night. Again, hanging out with artists and fellow collectors, friends, James, and we're out pretty late, just hanging out. So what's cool is that I've gotten to know Ryan over the years because I was initially picking up his art, but he's a buddy now.
Very cool. Now, I got a question for you both, because you've both mentioned that some of the pieces that we've shown are hanging on your walls. Now, do you actually have them in permanent frames, or do you have them in some kind of a frame where you can maybe change it out for something else? When you put something on the wall, how do you approach it?
Well, I use museum glass and full. Everything is, of course, it's not glued down, with Mylar and everything, so I can't change it out. But I consider it permanent. And actually, the thing that kind of spawned my art collecting hobby into another gear is I moved into a new house and I had all these blank walls, but I didn't know what to put on them. So originally I was going to put artwork and posters. I had those couple chew pieces that I got framed. I was like, oh yeah, this is nice. So I ended up just buying a whole bunch of comic art just to fill the space on my walls at first, until I really started getting addicted to the hobby.
That's cool. Yeah, so for me, Bill, I had a great framer in Dallas when I was there, and he was great because he would consult with me. We would talk about, I'd bring a piece, I said, I think I want to put this on the wall, and he would talk with me about, what would work in terms of the frame and that. Everything I have is black frame, black matte, but in terms of the style of the frame, the undermatting, it's all different based on the piece. So It's permanent, but it can be taken out. So I haven't framed anything in the last 2 years because I've since moved back to Arizona. But yeah, it's permanent, but I still love the way it looks, and it's the best stuff to put on the walls. So yeah.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff that I have on my walls are permanent too. I remember early on in collecting, I had bought like these cases of the ones where it's just the glass with some kind of a heavy backing with clips on it, so you could literally just kind of interchange them. So when I first was collecting 20 years ago, I thought, oh, I'm just going to always want to change these out, and I started out that way. But now those are all kind of collecting dust in the attic somewhere because I preferred the permanent ones that I've replaced those all with. But I've used those for sketches though occasionally. You know, like when I know I want to change them out, I've got like one on the wall, and I tend to flip that out for something different, so it's not always the same thing.
Well, the big reason mine are museum glass and everything is, this again, I was starting out, so I go on the CGC forums, I look up, how to frame your art or whatever the topic's on framing, and I got paranoid because everyone's like, you need UV glass to avoid sun damage. You need to close all your windows. You basically need to put everything in a cave, or all your art's going to turn yellow. So I'm like, all right, I'm going all out. So I've got pieces that are framed that the frame probably costs more than the art ever will, but just because of the frame, yeah.
Oh, there it is. That's beautiful.
Yeah, those are the two I just talked about, so I thought I'd show them real quick. Yeah.
Very cool. I know everybody, does something different. Like if I go to Berkey's a lot because he's not far from here, and he has a lot of art on the walls, but he doesn't hang up any of his good art. He has things that he's bought, like recreations and whatnot, and so he'll put those up, but he won't put up any of the really nice pieces. And I've never really asked him why that's like a preference, but I think everybody just kind of approaches how they display the artwork in different ways. Some people probably don't even put anything on the wall.
Well, I'm sure it's good stuff behind lock and key and armed guard at this point.
Yeah.
Well,
and a lot of it's just laying around in tubs, unfortunately. Well, his place is something else. If you guys are ever in the Cleveland area, I will definitely, make it a point of having Berkey do an art get together over at his place, because it's a definite fun experience. That's for sure.
We can go mini.
All right, James, let's get that. Let's talk about Cleveland. Once this thing gets this pandemic thing gets behind us completely, let's talk about Cleveland. Because Bill, y'all heard it. Bill offered it up. I
did, and I tell you, he is like, as far as Spidey, you like Spidey, he's been collecting. He's probably one of the biggest, tchotchke kind of collector of Spider-Man memorabilia out there. He literally has this room that's, I don't know, I'll say it's probably like 20 by 35. And it's like glass. It's like its own. It's encased in glass, and behind it is just tons of toys, all the old Spidey costumes, any little bit of Spidey memorabilia that you can think of, from the little cars that you could ride to pogo sticks, are in this room, and it's just wall to wall Spidey stuff. And he probably never even goes in it, but it's pretty cool. Last time I was there, I took some pictures. I thought one of these days I'm going to show people the way Berkey, kind of decorates his house and what he does with all this stuff. So, but yes, it's an open invitation.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Right on.
All right, good. So let's talk about this next piece, Khalil.
Yeah, so this is before my time, right? So, like I said, I was a kid in the '80s, so this was obviously published prior to that. But after finding Spider-Man, I found Black Panther when I was in high school, and you can read the description on the Humberto Ramos piece about what I liked about the character. But at that point, I tried to go back and look at some of the stories and books, and obviously there's not that much published in terms of the characters, like singular title or singular book, so it wasn't that difficult. And this page is the first appearance, the arrival of Eric Killmonger in Jungle Action. And, in the movie, Michael B. Jordan played him. He's kind of, blown up that way. But you just talk about like a perfect piece of art that resonates personally and just looks great. And I bought this from Klaus Janson, the inker, and Jason Schachter, his rep at the time. And I remember talking with Jason. I think he's on right now. And Jason was like, yeah, I think we've got, we're looking around. We got this one where he first kind of shows up in this. And in my head, I'm like jumping up and down. But externally, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'd love to take a look at that. You know what I mean? And we worked it out, and I'm so happy to have it here. And interestingly enough, I'm talking with Klaus, and he says, this book is my first credited inking work ever. And I said, oh, really? And prior to that, he'd been doing some Zipatone and some uncredited inking here and there, kind of helping out. But this is the first time he was actually listed in a book as an inker. So just all that, I mean, it hits on all cylinders in terms of importance to me. So yeah, it's just a great piece. I'll have this one. As long as I can keep my art, I'll have this one.
Yeah, that is a beautiful page. And a good
Rich
story,
Buckler.
too.
I'm sorry. And Rich Buckler is the penciler, obviously.
Oh,
sorry.
Yep. I was actually just going to ask that because I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah, well, Rich
Cool.
Buckler started out Jungle Action and was followed up by Billy Graham. And I got to give a shout out to Nick Contreras here because he has so much of that art, and it's awesome. I haven't talked to him in a bit, but we would go back and forth talking about that Jungle Action run. So I know he appreciates this one. I appreciate a lot of the pieces he has.
Looks like Jason helped us both get our best pieces or favorite pieces. I'd say that.
Yeah.
Why haven't I bought anything from Jason? That's what I'm asking myself right now.
He's on mine.
I know we need to work something out sometime, Jason.
Yeah. So it's a great one. And this I guess this last one, been talking about Spider-Man, Black Panther, so I'd venture off from that a little bit. Everyone likes Ron Lim's cosmic work from this time. A lot of Infinity Gauntlet fans, and I enjoyed that book. But to me, what I really liked at that time in terms of the cosmic stuff was just Ron Lim's work on that series. And I remember kind of flipping through and it being a lot different than anything else because it's in space and the environments were crazy. And when I think Silver Surfer, I think of a few artists. When I think of him, the first name that pops in my head is Ron Lim because of what I read it as a kid. So I got this some years back on a heritage auction, and it was my big target of the auction, and I was able to win it. So I was super happy. This one's actually on the wall too, and I just loved it because it's just a perfect splash of his Silver Surfer, and you see the name Norrin Rad and the Silver Surfer big and bold there. So yeah, just a favorite, and it takes me back again to being a kid and flipping through those books. I didn't collect Silver Surfer, but I had a handful here and there, and but beat up books I flipped through all the time. So it's just a awesome example to me.
Yeah, that's an incredible example. I love it.
Yeah,
And,
I have this one on the wall too. Let's see if yeah. So yeah, there's a silver glint in this in the frame. So that's but I did a little different on that one. Yeah.
That's cool. A little extra touch from yourself, right? To kind of make the frame special.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, I think one of the reasons, first of all, me and Khalil definitely appreciate the invite, Bill. The chances jump on here. So we're kind of a newer collectors, right? And the hobby is absolutely exploding, and there's a lot of new blood coming in. It can be pretty daunting for those guys coming in. So,
Yeah.
one of the questions I think we're gonna, you asked us to kind of elaborate on, and I'll let Khalil talk first. The kind of advice to new collectors, right? How to tackle a hobby that just kind of feels really unregulated versus if you're coming from comic books. So,
that is true.
Yeah.
I mean,
James. I mean,
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, 100% agree, man. Like I've been collecting now for 10, 11 years, and I started off with the con sketches and the con commissions, and then into published pages, going to cons, panel pages, and then you just kind of progress a little bit. But I've gotten the chance to talk with some and meet some newer collectors, and I love that experience. I think Octavio Carbank might be on. He's a guy I've been talking to recently, and I tell him that the big thing for me is always to buy what I like. I think it's very easy to kind of get caught up in, wow, that's that artist, and maybe I should get that, which is cool, right? I mean, the renowned artists are the renowned artists for a reason. But buy what you like. That's the first thing for me. And two, there's so much great stuff out there that I always want to make sure that I feel the personal value and know that at some point that if I needed to move something that I'd feel okay with that, and I'd be okay financially that way. So that's just a high level I keep for me. And I have a 4-year-old boy and a 2-year-old daughter, so things have changed for me a little bit in terms of how much new money and all that I'm going to be putting into the hobby. So I'm much more targeted now. But James, I agree. There's so much stuff out there. It's hard to sift through. But I 100% believe that there are value buys at any price range you're looking at. You just kind of got to be diligent about getting out there. That's just how I see it.
Kind of piggyback on that, getting out there. What I say is, just, man, make friends. There are so many avenues to connect with collectors of all levels. You have Facebook. That's where there's a lot of the groups on Facebook, and that's where a lot of our chats and a lot of our communication. Like, our chats run daily. Or you have, all this other social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, follow artists. You have your forums and CAF too. I knew Khalil because I reached out to him on CAF. I knew Frisbee because I reached out to him on CAF. So, you got the CAF messaging, and from what I've seen, most people are really, really receptive to, positive comments, communication, or assistance help, or just getting to know other people. Especially, honestly, I've seen my communication with COVID and everyone, being at home and not having that normal social interaction. I'm actually talking to my art buddies even more now because I, crave some type of human interaction outside of my wonderful wife and kids.
Yeah, you got to put wonderful in there. Good job.
Absolutely.
Good job.
Right. Well, that's what's been cool about COVID too, is it's kind of brought a lot of people out. That's why I wouldn't be doing these chats now if it wasn't for COVID. We wouldn't have done the con on CAF if it wasn't for COVID. I was always a guy that preferred email versus even picking up the phone because I tended to, that was like my way of taking a note, I'd rather just have it in an email that I could highlight and put in but now, I'd rather pick up the phone because it's quicker. It's I don't have to wait. I could, and it's all because of COVID. Honestly, it's changed my whole perspective on trying to run CAF and just how I'm going to interact with the advertisers that I work with or the dealers whose sites I host or whatever. It's so much easier just to pick up the phone or text them, one or the other. Because that's a lot of guys only want to text versus call, but yeah, before that, no, it was all email, and I would tell them that too. If they called me, I'd like, I'd really rather you send me an email and we have like a chain of communication here. So, but not anymore.
What's funny, because James and I met on CAF, like you said. But what's funny is that some of the folks on the chat made sense, because I've asked before on CAF, like, so where do you live? Where do you live? Because I do that now because James and I met, and I was in Dallas and he was in Oklahoma, literally probably an hour and a half away, and I never knew that. We figured that out once I left Dallas. So that's why I ask. It's possible that there's people near.
In our chat group, we have France, Singapore, California, New York, Mexico, Canada. Well,
right.
No one talks to Canadians. I'm kidding. So it's worldwide, and the chats come in at all hours of night because everyone's in a different time zone.
That's right. That's right. Oh yeah.
Well, that's cool. But now how big is the chat group? I think you said it was kind of small.
We have two that I'm regularly in. I think we have two that have 10 with a little overlap each. We kind of keep it at 10 because the messages after 10, it's just too hard to keep up.
Right.
Yeah, and I've been a little out of it lately just because it's my busiest time of year for work. It's crazy with the kids. Took some vacation last week, but I'll be catching up with everybody.
But for the if you have a buddy on Facebook or some other social media platform, you chat with and bring someone else in. Kind of bring someone else in. And then you're at the point where, you just have a little camaraderie between a group of people. And the nice part about it is just like what happened with the Mcfarlane piece. There was no way in heck I would ever know what the Nate D. Sanders auction, unless I was buying a gold Elvis frame. But, some guy in our chat figured it out and got the link, and we jumped on it.
What I like, James, is that we, you kind of run things by each other, right? So what do you think this might be worth? Does this make sense or whatever else? So that's great. But then two, when someone picks something up that, everybody's happy for each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that's what's cool about the hobby is, sure, something comes up and like, wow, I'd love to have that. But there's never been a jealous thing with me on this stuff at all, right? I have a lot of nice stuff. Others have a lot of nice stuff. So it's just nice seeing it. and you're happy when people pick up stuff that they that resonates for them personally.
I'm seething with resentment personally. I hate you all.
Yeah, Sans James. Yeah.
And and that stuff happens at all levels. I mean, obviously, between collectors like yourselves, but I hear the same stories from dealers. They're gauging the value of things and asking each other's opinions all the time. At least in areas where it's a bit more speculative, I think. I see that kind of stuff happening at all levels. So it's good to have people that you can rely on to give to kind of temper maybe you're too enthusiastic over a piece, and they can kind of slow you down. Right. Don't go too hard on that piece, because that's the one thing that I found is the biggest problem with new collectors is just that they dive in, they overspend, they want to be first. And my recommendation to new collectors all the time is like, be the second guy to own that piece. If you want to be happy, sometimes it's cool to be first, and you have to do it because it's something you want to keep and treasure for a long time. But a lot of times, if you're really looking for good examples, it's best not to be like to be that first buyer, because you're going to pay a bit of a premium on it. You're better to get it. You might get lucky with a little bit with somebody trying to sell a piece to fund another sale, where they might be more willing to negotiate the price down from the original price. And because that's like the one thing that I get asked all the time. It's like how to where to put myself at a price point with things, and and values. Like, how do I know this dealer is asking the right price for this? Well, the dealer can ask whatever. If he's repping a guy, I mean, it's what he and his artist, the price they've come up with. So that's the price. You either pay it or you don't. I mean, that's the big difference with like our market data today, is that if a piece is from a rep dealer, you can pretty much guarantee that the price is the price. Rep dealer is not going to really, very rarely is going to really wheel and deal and negotiate. And some pieces maybe, but by and large not. Whereas with the dealers who maybe deal more in the vintage stuff, I mean, you never know if there's cash or trade, or if the price went from $4,000 to $3,500 and half of that was cash and trade. You just never know. All you know is it was $4,000 last time you saw it. So
right.
But yeah, so it's good as you've been in it for a few years, to get those friendship, those relationships that can help you maybe not make so many mistakes, right?
Well, I mean, James and I talked about this. Sorry, we you kind of start off the same way. You make mistakes, and that's how you learn. What's tough is that there's no book to read about how to get into this. You've just got to really like it, and naturally get involved, and make some mistakes, make some right choices, and gain that experience. But James and I, you and I talk about patience and persistence, right? Like patience in the sense that, there may be something that you're looking for, and you may be a little frustrated that you can't find it right now. But, by and large, things come up when you least expect. That happens all the time. And then secondly, persistence is just, there may be collectors privately you're talking with, and maybe later. So make sure to keep checking in with that person, or, just make sure to keep diligent about looking what you're looking for. But yeah, we talk about patience and persistence a bit.
And Khalil and I talk about it, but I'm not patient. That's for sure. Man. One thing I learned about this hobby, especially if anyone, everything takes time. To finding the piece, to buying the piece, for waiting, 3 weeks for the damn thing to ship to you after an auction. Everything takes time in this hobby, it seems like.
So here's a good question for you. Khalil dropped out. He'll probably pop back in. When you buy a piece, do you put it on calf the moment you've completed the deal, or do you wait till you have it in hand?
That's a good question. I wait till I have it in hand. I don't want to wait, but most of the time it's because the pieces that are posted, they're okay scans. So when I throw it on my scanner, it usually comes out a lot better. That way, that initial impression, I have the highest wow factor. Mm-hmm. I'm not the type of guy, though, that I've got, a good buddy of mine, Riz, man, I'm calling him out on it, but he'll hold on pieces forever before he actually posts them, to give like a cooling off period for a wow factor. And so that guy's discipline is admirable. It is. If it was posted on calf for sale the day before and the guy overnighted to me, it's on calf the next day.
Yeah. I'm kind of in between there. I'll let it simmer a little bit in terms of in terms of postings. There was a question here from Nick. Nick asked if I was going back to New Jersey, and I'm not. I can't make it this time to the con there. But I want to say, James, you had mentioned how, just getting to meet people. So a few years back, I flew from Dallas to New Jersey. It was literally a one night trip to go to this comic art con in New Jersey, right? Little hotel. And I meet 4 people on CAF that I've never met face to face, Nick being one of them. And that was awesome. I bought pieces from Bashara, I bought pieces from Berkey. And now I know people in a way I hadn't before. I mean, that was one of the best trips ever, and it was literally one night, and now I've got people I get to talk to. Now, I'm not making it this time, and sad about that, but that was a great experience.
Yeah, one of the things I do regret. I had planned. I never went to too many cons, but I was like, I'm gonna go start picking that up. Then the whole world, almost ended, and so once this COVID thing breaks, I actually have kind of almost a resolution to start visiting the con scene and getting out there and Chicago and Seattle and maybe the San Diego Comic-Con if I want to do the madness.
The heroes that's a great one. There's so many artists there, and they're actually accessible. Like you can get up and there's not that many lines. To me, Heroes and Emerald City, if you're an art fan, those two stand out. And in terms of the ones I've been to. Yeah.
Yeah, Hero was always a good show. I mean, it's like always Father's Day weekend, I think. So you're both fathers. It's a good excuse to go out, towards Myrtle Beach or something if you want to have a little vacation. That's what we used to do. I drive. I've been to that show in 10 years, but when my kids were young, we would drive through, do that show for a day, and then head on down to Myrtle Beach and spend a week, rent a condo or something, or tow a pop-up trailer or something. So it was always a good show, and that's where I got my a piece from Adam Hughes that my wife had to get in line to get, that like 16 years ago, where she got in line and lucked out and got me Adam Hughes Jean Grey sketch, and it's probably my favorite piece. But it was a Father's Day thing. It's like she was like, I'm gonna wait in line for you this time because I struck out like the last 5 times leading up to that. But that show has always been like my favorite. I mean, as well, because you're right, everybody's accessible. The hotel's really nice. You can, if you hang out at the the bar in the evening, you're gonna end up having a lot of great conversations with collectors and creators. But the Comic Art Con experience is definitely really unique because there are other shows, right? Bashara has that LA show.
Been to that one, yeah, once. Yep.
Okay, I haven't been to that one, and then I'm trying to think. Oh, Zadok has a show in New York as well that I think he tries to place in between the Comic Art Cons. I think there's been a couple of those. So there's a few other ones out there, but the New Jersey Con is definitely kind of the standard, just because so many dealers are in that area. And like you said, Berkey will drive out there sometimes. He doesn't go all the time because he likes football so much that he almost hates to go anywhere on a Sunday because of football. So I mean, so he's only been like 3 times.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
I was sitting at a bar that night in the hotel, just getting something to eat, and I saw Mike Berkey there, and just said, "Hey, how you doing?" And Sean Rutan, I'm not sure if you know Sean. He was sitting, he was sitting next to me. And he goes, "Oh, Khalil, K Giron and CAF," and so I got to know him, and we talk to this day. Yeah, so it's just neat experience.
Yeah, Sean's good. He works with Hakes and helps him get consignments. I've known him for a long time. He's a good guy, very good guy, and he lives around here. I mean, he's in the area too. So I haven't. Well, it was probably about a year ago last time I saw him, a party at Berkey's house. But very good guy. But yeah, that's so I heard that they might actually try to do some kind of little live stream from the show. So I'd be kind of curious to see what if how the show is attended, and I know that they're like getting a bigger room and everything, so they can kind of help people stay a little bit further apart from one another. But I hope it goes well. I mean, Joe, the guy who runs it, Joe, he's a really great guy. He's pretty savvy about trying to just run a show that people want to go to. And I haven't been to it, and I think I've been to enough, and always have a good time there. So, I guess, it's one of the things that I was thinking about, with you guys having the small chat groups. I think it's kind of weird, because that's kind of like where the hobby was before, when it was only just guys who knew each other. But you guys kind of do it in a cool way, where you're able to network and branch out and do things in a different way than like the old timers used to, because they were like landlocked and could only commiserate if they could get in the same room with one another, or send a fax or something. And it's kind of cool that with the way you guys have done that, because I'll be honest, not being a heavy buyer in the last 10 years, I haven't had the need to go out there and network like that. And when you guys told me you did that, that was like a revelation. It's like, damn, this is that's such a great idea. And I would have never known that kind of thing was going on kind of behind the scenes to help you guys further your collections and get to know other collectors.
Yeah, we've seen a lot. I mean, a big increase on Facebook, and then Instagram now. I'm just seeing just tons of collectors, tons of art being posted on Instagram. It doesn't even show up on CAP, right? Or it doesn't even show up on Facebook. So I mean, just these different platforms where people are comfortable and gravitate toward. Which is kind of neat to expand.
That's awesome.
I have one quick commercial for anyone that's watching. If anyone has any Cosmic Ghost Rider covers, please get in contact with Rob R immediately. Sorry,
he's on the chat.
Yeah, he's on.
Is he?
Yep. Cosmic Ghost Rider equals Rob R. Okay, I'm done.
Man, we should do a want list segment here for everybody. Whoever I invite on, or whoever wants to be on, we can plug these things permanently. Right? It's not a bad idea,
Yeah.
No, that's just good, because like we've been doing those comic art live chats, and they're I just thought this would be fun, being able to get to know collectors in a different way than we have the opportunity over there, because those guys are just so insightful about pricing and the history and everything. But what you guys are like on the pulse of what's going on today in a very different way than what we're talking about over in that other show. And I think that this is like a really fun way to approach it. That's why I think we're gonna try to do these regularly now, where I can bring in collectors like yourselves and chat about the hobby and how you're managing to wade through all these things.
No, we really appreciate the invite, and the other group,
sure.
It's really good about taking our money. We give it to them. But no, we appreciate you talking about it.
Yeah. Hey, James. So one plug too. George Hodge. He's on. So he made his own book here. And George. Here's the CD. Right. Jack the Radio. Jack the Radio.
QVC, Bill. We're turning into QVC.
Yes, we are.
I had to do it, man. I had to do it.
Yeah. How do we put a buy it now link up in the middle of this chat?
You're on to us, Bill. You're on to us. I guess we weren't as
we're not
as
right?
There you go. George says you are too kind.
Right on.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So we went over our hour. I was kind of trying to keep it to that, but it's been a lot of fun, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I'll have I've already posted the summary to what I talked about at the beginning of this, and I've got links to both Khalil and James' gallery in this kind of update. So that'll be linked over on Facebook and YouTube. So if you want to kind of follow up and check out their collections in more detail, you should definitely do that. And I'll get that posted in the next 5 or 10 minutes, so you can do that. But any parting words, any other want list items for yourselves that you want to plug here?
As far as want lists, I mean, I definitely know it's out there. I'm always on, if I could find anything for not an astronomical sum, it'd be a really nice Andy Kubert full team X-Men splash, from the X-Men run. But, they're not going cheap nowadays. That's I'm sure. So
No.
Khalil, what do you?
I don't know, man. So there's a few out there. I would say, so for you, Bill, refer to my profile. I put like a top 5 there on CAF, and I think I guess what maybe stands out recently is that, I'm a Black Panther collector, and I'm trying to find the right, great, nice looking Mark Teixeira piece from his run that he started with Chris Priest, Christopher Priest, some years back. So I don't have an example from there yet. So that kind of runs top of mind right now. And I would just say, hopefully I'll get a chance to meet y'all. I mean, you, Bill, and then the folks on the chat in person at some point. With my last posting, Bill, with the Humberto Ramos piece, which is a great looking piece, I kind of went into what I liked about Black Panther and Chadwick Boseman. And so unfortunately he's passed on. So I'll just say, kind of like I said there, that hopefully everybody's appreciating their day-to-day family, friends, and this really fun hobby that gives us a lot of enjoyment. So I'd close with that.
Well, I will say this on my want list. Just go to Paul P's collection, click on most views, and that's my want list.
Yeah.
Paul. Oh, every other day he's putting up some great stuff, man. Yeah.
Yeah. No, let's go. I was kind of prepping for next week's most popular pieces, and there was probably like 2 of Paul's pieces that I'm quite confident are already going to be in that. So, yeah. And so look, see, Ruben says, don't cut it off. Keep these guys talking. Ruben, you just have to ask questions, man, and we'll be happy to hang out a little bit longer.
Ruben's my man. He's he's awesome. We interact a lot mostly on CAF, but I love hearing his takes on things, and we definitely comment a lot on each other's stuff. And I like the fact that he kind of discern what he likes specifically and may not about a piece, but he's knowledgeable guy.
One thing about me and Khalil that are kind of opposites, like when he comments on CAF pieces, he offers a really, really thoughtful analysis, brings in, ink or context and everything. I mean, mine are mostly, I just want to make the guy laugh. Like Paul posted a piece where Man-Thing had a cannonball flying through him, and I just pulled a line from Monty Python, like, it's only a flesh wound. That's what I just have fun trying to, break up the nice cover, nice splash comment that gets over and over again, and try to just figure out something that, makes people laugh. And Khalil, makes comments that make people feel good about their purchase.
Well, yeah, Ruben does too. I mean, and I appreciate that. If we ever, there's so much data in CAF that we could, to mine. I mean, one of the cool things that would be interesting to see would be, who posts a lot of comments and what pieces they're commenting on, because I'm sure if you ran a report for, like, say, just the last year, certain names would come to the top, and like Ruben, he comments a lot, and they're always very thoughtful. And if you're on like the Yahoo Comic Card L group, whenever he does post something, he always has something really thoughtful to say about the piece that he's posting too. And I like when guys have stories about the pieces and why they want to buy them, and maybe what the artist was doing, or what made that piece that they had to have. And Ruben does a great job illustrating that, and when he comments on people's other stuff. And comedy's fine too, because so often when I look at comic art, I almost, especially if a cannonball is going through Man-Thing, that's probably like the first thing that I would probably think to say too, right? Because I can almost, wasn't Man-Thing on a pirate ship or something crazy like that, a ghost pirate ship? I mean, who would write something like that?
Yeah.
Well, so David Chiscone right here, he says Khalil wants my Miles Morales piece by Pepe Larraz. That's absolutely true. So whenever you want to get that figured out with me, David, then we'll figure that out. Love that character. So yes. Sorry, I'm just looking at some of the comments, gents.
No,
and you're going to kill me on this one, Khalil, because it might interrupt the transition. But with the PlayStation game coming out for PlayStation 5 with Miles Morales, all Miles Morales stuff is just blowing up right now, like that, especially on the comic side, but even on the art side. His I just see his exposure on a video game, right? You always think like the MCU or the movies, but it's all medium that just kind of influences the exposure, and it all trickles down to the actual comic art.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, when the Black Panther, right? Like, so for me, I'm picking up his art, and I had this goal of like, I'm going to pick up a piece from every, creator that had a key run on that character, and also modern guys that I want to see their take. And that was, not necessarily easy, but it became much more difficult when the movie came out, right? In terms of just the other interest, which to me was great because I love to see, characters I like get that exposure. So that was great. But yeah, it made it a little tougher on picking up newer stuff. Because you're right.
Well, to go back one quick thing, you mentioned comments, and you look up who does comments. One of the side effects of building these relationships and being in these chat groups, you actually find that you're just commenting on everyone that you know's work all the time. So there's a lot of this kind of the same commenters over and over again on a lot of my pieces. They're my friends, and
Yep.
they're all watch galleries, and we post a piece in the chat room when we get it, and so I mean, it just again, just building the networks, building the camaraderie, building the friendships, reaching out, and just connecting with people. And how actually our group kind of got started is we reached out to people that had similar collections that we had, because we figured if similar collections in a similar time frame, they have similar interests, socioeconomic background, just what they read, what they grew up on. And
James, we're all around the same age. We're all around the same age. That's a big thing too, right? When did you start getting this stuff? Yeah.
And so that ended up like, our groups are, we're very, very diverse from, our locations, and very, very diverse for our upbringings, but, kind of like our interests, our hobby, our value, our place in life. This is coincidentally very, very similar based on our comic art collections. So it was just kind of an interesting growth of just reaching out to people with similar interests.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned like using the watch galleries on CAF. I mean, I never get any feedback on any of that stuff. So do you rely more on the email that goes out, or do you just rely on the watch gallery that's in the upper right column?
Upper right column.
Okay, okay. That's what I use too. I mean, I almost never, I actually get an email every hour because it's my way of knowing if it ever breaks, and I'm like last in the list. So when I don't get one, I know that something went wrong, and so I only check for that. But when I want to, I do that same thing. I only look at the right column. So that's good to know, because at some point we're going to go through a redesign, and I've always felt that stuff in the right column for premium members was really important. And that you pay very close attention to the watch gallery thing. All right, good, good.
And I watch. Oh my gosh, I probably have like 50 that I watch, and a lot of times, like if I see someone post a piece of art that I like, I'll comment. If they post a second piece of art, I'll comment. And then if it's like a third time, well, they're a watch gallery now, because obviously they're posting stuff that I'm interested in. And what typically happens then, those pieces go on the right. And when I log into CAF, those are some of the first things I see. And so I end up, commenting on the watch galleries pretty much more than any other art.
Yeah. Yep.
Good.
It's true.
Well, I'm glad. Then that's because that is honestly, I've never gotten any feedback about that. I've every once in a while I think, should I move it? Should I leave it? Should I do it in tabs or something and show more? Rather than show 5, show 10 and put it in some kind of a tab system. But yeah, when it comes down to it, see, you guys would be good guys to beta test with. When I start tweaking on the layout, I'll work with the both of you.
And I'll volunteer the rest of our group too. One other thing, my little feedback. For double page splashes, Bill, change the sizing, because I love double page splashes, and
That's
when you
fair.
post them, they look tiny, and then you get to click on to blow them up. But I'm like, man, they're double pages. Shouldn't they be twice as big? But I digress.
You mean when I fit them on the page between the two?
Yeah. So
look at my gallery. When they're posted,
he means like so when you've got a page like this that's a normal page, and then the DPS kind of looks like.
Yeah.
Like
oh, I see.
Yeah. That's all. That's
I don't double page splash because here
it looks like a postage stamp. No, I know what you mean.
Yeah. I mean, you may click on it. You may click on it in most instances, but yeah. And James and I agree, right? So when it comes to double page splashes, title splashes, they're some of the best values, right? Right. Yeah, best nice value.
Well,
because
I mean,
covers have their premium. Covers have their premium, and you can get a in my view, right? I like covers just like anybody else does, but to me, it's more important is the image, right? So if you got a splash page that looks better or just as good, and it doesn't have the premium of the cover, then that's something to consider.
Right,
I'm a
right.
huge double page splash fan because you get the giant art, and it's cheaper than covers.
Yeah.
Usually, yeah. But so then, see, my challenge from a programming standpoint, it's like, all right, if I have 3 columns and those columns can only be this wide, you have to fit, a DPS into that shape, right? But
I will digress on one thing.
okay.
When you actually click on a double page splash and you go into the landing page, like that you can comment and everything, it's still on the smaller size. So maybe if you expand, I'm telling you how to program CAP, right? Who the hell am I? But
It's okay. I mean, you can dream
This is what we've
all
got
you
to
want, James. But what I was
I want
going
the
to suggest
background to
was,
sparkle, right? And I want it scented if you can. But no, that was just
Spencer Beck has that sparkle stuff. He's got the corner on that market. So, but what I was going to say was, one thing that I've always kind of, I like the hover thing where we can show more details on a piece, but I've been contemplating when we do the redesign that to do something more like what Heritage does, where you hover over the piece and I show a larger image that way. It's kind of like a quick view of the piece. So that might at least give you something more, rather than the small thumbnail for your DPS. Somebody can hover over it, see the bigger image before they click on it, to at least get a better detail from that the thumbnail page. So it's something to consider.
I thought about that too, and then also I wonder how it inversely, or if it's inversely proportional to the number of clicks that you'll see now, right?
Yeah.
If you have a hover,
That's true too, because if they can see a bigger image before clicking on it, then you won't get a view, because we don't record a view till you get on the page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill, what I think.
Go ahead.
What I think would be neat too is the members that are following you, like the premium members. So when you go to your dashboard and you can see how many ever are following you, I think it'd be neat to be able to send them a note, all of them, like at once, if you wanted to, like as an enhancement, right? So I thought about that just today, because I was like, I'm gonna send an email to a handful of guys to let them know that we're on tonight. You know what I mean? Because we may have never talked or seen each other face to face. So I sent them a note, and I did that individually. And I'm like, might have been neat to just kind of blast that out, to the folks who listen that way.
All right, so here is a great question for every premium member out there today. Well, a non-premium member too. Well, I guess it would be for everybody, because I only get asked once or twice a year, and I always say I don't get asked enough, so I'm not going to do it. Premium, people always say, "Can I see who's following me?" And I always say, well, we always thought it was a privacy issue back when we first created it, and so I've never shown that. But like you were just saying, where you could maybe push an update out to people who are following you, that would be you're right, that would be kind of cool. But that might also necessitate me letting who is following you, right? And watching your gallery. So would you care if people knew you were watching their gallery? Because you might be watching some person's gallery because they're competition for what you like, and maybe you don't want that person to know. So yeah. So you never thought about that. There might be 1 or 2 people like that, and that is why we never did it. Why we never showed the list. There's a number. 50 people follow your gallery or watch your gallery, but we never showed who.
I guess you could have an opt-out option. I mean, just if you want to be able to see, like Facebook has privacy. Well, they really don't, but the illusion of privacy, right? So I guess you could have an opt-out option for people to see your following or be able to see your followers. I didn't know this were going to come on here and tell you how to program CAP.
No, but
it was just talking.
It's a good question, because I do get asked like twice a year. Somebody will be like, "Can I see who follows me?" Because people want to know. They want to know that that James follows me and we have similar interests, or whatnot, or a collector of silver and age artwork wants to know that the Berkeys and Glenn Brunswicks of the world like his gallery. I mean, there's something to that. But you're right. If there was a way where you could opt out and just say appear as anonymous and not let people know, that might be the way to do it. But again, privacy was always my main issue. I just felt like that wasn't really the right thing to do. Show account, sure, but show a name, maybe not.
Yeah, I think like opt out or the show up as anonymous probably kind of takes care of that issue.
Hmm. But I do like that idea because you could still post. You could, like what you were saying, Khalil, like being able to maybe make an announcement to people who follow you. Maybe you don't need to know who they are, but you could make sure that they didn't miss the fact that you were in their watch gallery update. Because there's days when I only follow like around 50 guys too, and that list cycles a lot for me for the people that I follow. So I'll miss Joe Jusko when he's making a post. If I don't look at that list, 2 or 3 times a day sometimes, because he'll like cycle out, and I always like looking at his paintings, and I don't always go to my full list of the 50 to see that I missed him. Like he's number 6 now, and I just missed him when he was going through the list. So, all right, let's see. Let's see. I was just reading some of the comments here. Michael says he's curious because my calf has somehow got 45 people watching it. Right. Well, that's the thing. That's why it's a mystery at the end of the day.
I'll be 46. I'll find you.
I don't think anybody really follows mine because I don't update it enough. But I don't feel bad about that. Let's see. Someone here says,
see, Ruben says Khalil was so excited about being on TV tonight. TV, yep. He emailed me everyone that ever left him a comment ever in the history of his postings to let them know. So that would have been easier if I could have done it once. Yeah.
Well, Khalil, didn't you also email all your enemies? So you say, look at me now, I'm on TV, or YouTube channel or something?
Well, some people might be watching it on TV. I mean, the YouTube is an app on most smart TVs these days, so it wouldn't surprise me. I have never done it myself, but it is possible.
Yeah.
Sorry, James, I missed you there. I cut out for a second.
We were just joking about Ruben watching it on a TV.
It's a 4x3 CRT.
Okay, all right, got it. Yeah.
But I tried pulling this one up earlier. It was just bootlegging says I'm still new to collecting, but it feels like the next wave are a little more open about what they're after, and it fails to whoever can make it happen. No hard feelings when someone beats me out. I mean, that's probably true, but but again, it's like they, like James and Khalil say, they've kind of got their small kind of circle of friends that they're sharing it with, and that's good. Like they say, if you expand it too wide, it probably wouldn't be as helpful. But when you've got a core group of people that you trust, to look for advice or to key you in on deals like the Nate Sanders Mcfarlane auction. I mean, you would never have known that if it wasn't for one of the people on the list to point it out.
Yeah, I will say this too, in the group, and then there's some personal chats too. When I say there's some people in the group, I will say all of them, someone's left out, but that I mean they're true friends, right? There's people, there's guys that I've talked to that I've never met in person, that have been helped me out when I needed it, or vice versa. Like, not any different than like a friend that would be down the street in my same neighborhood. So, that common interest camaraderie from comic art kind of initiated that. Like I mentioned, based on our collections, it kind of predisposes us to the common interest, and it just creates some lasting relationships.
Yeah.
The joy of collecting original comic art. I mean, who would have guessed, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
I would never have guessed that's where we'd be today. When we first started doing CAF, and when I first started collecting, like 21, 22 years ago. I mean, it just wasn't like this at all. But yeah, it's an amazing time. So, and I have to tell you, I'm getting a little tired, guys. It's past my bedtime. So, but we should do this again. I mean, I think that this was fun, and you guys were great to talk to. So while I think that this platform is really good, an opportunity for me to bring in lots of different collectors, there's no reason why we can't bring people back, especially when there's crossover and there's and we're looking for discussions to further the hobby and to pick your brain a little bit as well. I think we'll definitely be able to do this again.
One of my media empire. No.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All for it. Cool. Thanks. I appreciate it, Bill.
Not a problem, guys. I appreciate it as well. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Actually, next Tuesday, we don't have a regular Comic Art Live. I'm going to be talking with collector and entrepreneur Larry Wilson, who's got a very interesting history in the hobby, and I'm not going to give any of it away. It's going to be a lot of fun, but we'll be doing I'll be doing a one-on-one interview with him next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern on this same channel. So hopefully you guys will tune in for that, and then we'll see who I bring in next Thursday for the next CAF update. So thanks again, guys. James, Khalil.
All right.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Like, comment, subscribe. I really wanted to say that on a YouTube video. All right, I'm done.
Say it again. I didn't hear it.
Like, comment, subscribe, because I see it on every single YouTube video.
Yeah, I always forget to say that. So yeah, but I would appreciate a like, a comment, or a subscribe. Yeah, that'd be great.
There you
Thanks,
go.
everybody.
All right.
Good night.
All right. Thanks.